ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, the audio quality might be a little bit suspect on this particular session. Please bear with us. Salem's going to try and do his magic as usual, and hopefully it'll be acceptable. Back to normal service next week. All the best. Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again. And if I'm sounding a little bit rattled, that's because we've had a couple of false starts this afternoon. Anyhow, here we are. Everything's looking good. Weather's great. I've had my haircut. Steve Dickson's very close by. And Stephen, lovely to see you again, mate. Really flown.
Very close by, but socially distanced. I've equally had a haircut.
Exactly. Exactly.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah. Little things make a big difference, eh?
They do indeed. I think this week I've seen lots of talk about restarts, lots of talk about summer travel, lots of talk about vaccine passports, lots to talk about things getting back to normal, and hopefully on our roadmap, things even opening up earlier than they would have done, which is great news. Yeah,
touch wood. Now, we've been humming and hawing over the last few weeks, and obviously we had Prince Philip's funeral and various other things, but we were going to announce some awards if we had awards. So if there were the Oscars or the BAFTAs, who would we give to what category? So if we were giving them out, you know, who would be the best film? And I thought I'd kick us off with a little idea. For me, the best film would be the NHS. It would be all health workers all over the world. They would get the best, biggest Oscar as far as I'm concerned. What do you think?
I would agree entirely. Yeah. I think, ably supported by those behind the scenes in the health services, Chris, maybe the sort of the unsung or unseen heroes in the NHS management, administration, all the clerical staff and that are keeping the wheels on the road. So absolutely the frontliners and those are less frontline, but more supporting actor and actresses.
And perfect there. So the supporting actors awards would go to those supporting frontline staff. So whether they're warehouse in aviation, whether they're ramp, whether they're catering, whether they're cleaners, etc., and the same everywhere else. So the firemen, the dustmen, anybody that did anything just to keep things ticking over, God bless them, fantastic, and they would be on the honours list.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now let's ask you. Now let's get into a little bit. Who would you put as, and I'm saying actors, so I'm not going in any gender or anything like that, because as far as I'm concerned, people are people. We love them all. Doesn't matter what age, whatever. We love everybody, right? So leading actors. Who would you say you would throw in there as the leading actors?
Oh, look, that's a really good question. I hadn't had much time to prepare for, although probably 3 weeks of preparation probably should have been enough, but didn't quite get on to the top of the to-do list.
All right, so I'll throw someone in that you and me have been talking about this for a while. We've been griping about how miserable and negative the media has been and the stupid things they come out with, and they always want to focus on the negative. But our industry journalists have been absolutely fantastic. They've been very factual. They've gone on the positives. They've been looking to see what can be done. And probably the only thing that we haven't done as an industry, and I'm saying now from the cargo side, is we've almost been in the shade and not wanted to say how well things have gone, because cargo has actually done well, whereas so many other industries have done poorly. But the journalists have been brilliant. So I
think so. I think actually you could also extend that, Chris, to a couple of chaps. Dare I say, not normally a massive fan of this organisation, which is the BBC. Two gentlemen by the name of Hugh Pym, the medical editor, and Fergus Walsh, who I think is the science, also the health editor. And the combination of the two of them, I think they have been absolutely fantastic in stripping fact from fiction. And really, even when their on-screen colleagues have tried to sort of, go off script and try to build a bit of emotion into the stories, I think the combination of Hugh and Fergus have kept them very much on track. And it was very telling for me last week when there was even more noise about. I know you're you're a Pfizer candidate, and I'm an AstraZeneca candidate. So that's a good. We've got a balance here. But there's even more noise about both vaccinations, particularly around clotting and additional risks and so on and so forth. And actually, it was one of Fergus Wass or Hugh Pym, respectively, who put their journalist colleagues correct around, let's put this into relative to other risks that you may encounter. The chances of a blood clot are 4 in a million. There is more chance of you dying from DVT on a long flight, was the analogy he used, or both long haul flight, than there is from a COVID-induced clot from the vaccination. So I just think, because it was related back to traveling, so what I would give to be on a long flight, or 2 or 3 long haul flights. But yeah, look. So I think those 2 chaps, in addition to the you could call them industry journalists, I guess, different industry, Chris, the health industry, but certainly they had a grasp of what they're talking about and kept things real as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, and I think while we're on the analogy of giving out Oscars and BAFTAs, the 2 of them would not be seen as leading men or leading players in normal circumstance.
Oh, nobody would know their name, probably.
Yeah, they wouldn't even been asked up. They dare I say, they'd be considered to be just pretty grey characters, But my goodness me, have they stepped forward? And it just goes to show that people are paying a lot more attention now to different types of characters.
They are indeed, and I think we said very early on, we spoke about our favourite epidemiologist.
Yes.
So, well, who would ever have thought prior to 2020 that one could ever have a favourite epidemiologist, unless you were a scientist in those fields, or somebody that is working in similar fields. I never thought that had been heard of, but of course you do hear these things these days. People referencing names on the stage that they would never have seen before.
And I'm sure. I mean, I don't know whether they will or not, but it would be an interesting fact now, wouldn't it, if somebody brought out a COVID after dinner game, so that you had all these buzzwords and little quizzes and who was the best one here, and instead of which 6 historic characters would you like to have a fictitious meal, it'd be which medical experts and which, it'd be amazing.
I was I don't know if you listened to Just a Minute, are you on Radio 4? Yeah. Well, it was of course very ably presented by Nicholas Parsons for decades.
Yep.
Who sadly passed away last year, not as a result of COVID. But he, Just a Minute, for those unawares, is you have to talk about a subject without deviation, repetition, or hesitation. A subject for 1 minute without the. And anyway, I was listening to it last week. I don't know if you heard, but of course, one of my, Alan, what's the chap's name? Stephen Fry, who is the most excellent orator at the best of times, introduced the concept of talking about epidemiology for just a minute. And of course, that's a really tough one. But I suppose now, with our knowledge as armchair experts, it will become far easier for many than it would have been before. Yeah,
no, I agree. But it's so peculiar now, the conversations that people are having, and now that they're getting out again, it's interesting to listen, because you can hear the people on the next tables and stuff, out in the gardens, and it's so lovely to see, Steve. Now, another leading actor or whatever, I would put ICAO in that as well, because of the speed of which they made changes. They were, very flexible, very realistic, and gave good guidelines. So I would put them up there. Now, I've got one for you. Special effects. Imagine if we were doing an award now for special effects, or something that nobody expected. Guess who my nomination would be? It would be for the Praetor.
Very good.
I think that was such an incredible, flexible, and look how it's developed now, Steve, with the way in which now they've got less people, it's faster, it's more acceptable, everybody's thinking of doing it. I mean, I just think that was done so well, so quickly. Hats off to anybody who did it from the very beginning. Yeah,
I guess the Praetor kind of made a bit of a guest appearance, Chris. So no, look, I mean, that caught most of us unawares. I don't think that we suspected, and if they did, they deserve a medal, but I don't think many people would have suspected that the use of Praetors would have gone on for quite so long as it has done.
Yeah.
Primarily because, of course, passenger traffic has not recovered to the levels that would support the air cargo network of meaningful volume, and therefore the Praetors are still in play. The one thing I would not give an award to, if you remember, just to take it back to the COVID lens, Chris, was the very original Downing Street briefings that we all sort of set our clocks by at 5 p.m. every night. Yeah. Every night for 7 nights a week. The Prime Minister or one of his ministers would traipse out onto the stage with Professor Chris Whitty or Sir Patrick Vallance, or many others. I've forgotten the names now. I'm ashamedly I don't watch it as much these as I used to. At the time, I could have reeled them all off, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you remember the slide content, Chris, at the outset, at the beginning, and the presentation style. It was pretty amateur. It was pretty ropey. I must say now, however, with the new £2.5 million Downing Street studio, that you could say that that maybe the newcomer award goes to those that have designed that new studio and those new graphics, because they're pretty slick now. I must give them credit for.
Yeah, but it also goes to show, Steve, how much of a difference the messaging and also the impact makes when it's done very professionally.
Well, I also think the insatiable appetite for data, Chris, from members of the public that historically would probably not have, given much of a toss about this kind of data, have actually lapped it up. It plays into your point really before that you've mentioned historically around sharing why is it that we're doing this, and why does it need to be done that way, and why can't it be done another way? And that is supported by presentation of data. Now, what they do with that data is another thing. It tends to come up. I mean, I've been out the pub a few times this week, actually 5 times. We're on day 5, so every evening, bar none, thus far. We'll go for 7 out of 7. Every table I've heard people speaking about, the risk of something with the vaccine, or the spread of COVID, or the propensity, or the penetration, or the virus load. Again, stuff that we would never have spoken. And it comes back to, I guess, knowledge. Some level of knowledge allows people to have a conversation. Having a conversation is a meaningful way to dispel some fears and myths and whatever. And it comes back to what we said before about employers, Chris. Actually just having the conviction, to speak openly and with confidence to their people about what's going on and why it's going on, in the same way that the government has done with the public.
Yeah, and give people more credit for allowing them to understand what, and like you said, the why, and giving them the right information. But I think it's great now that everybody can see what data means, and they can see things being forecasted. They can see things being better than forecast because of the trend lines. And when it comes back to work now, it's also good because people don't react on every incident. They now start looking at the trends instead, and it's the trends that you need to address, not every single incident. So I think
exactly.
All in all,
exactly.
Good for business as well as it is for every.
Great for business, and I've seen all the pubs, near where I live in London are heaving most nights. I dared to sit outside yesterday and have lunch, and I sat next to the River Thames, just a few minutes walk from where I live, and I had wrapped up with 2 blankets, and it was. We're going to be careful. We're trying to build a sense of normality, but doing normal things again, and sitting outside in 12 degrees with a wind chill along the River Thames isn't very normal as far as I'm concerned. So we do have to sort of be a little balanced, but be careful what you wish for. I guess we want a bit of normality, but not so much that you end up with a pneumonia from sitting outside all the time.
Mate, you've got thin blood from all your travel to these lovely, wonderful, exotic warm.
I do, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm sitting in your house, Chris, with my gilet on. Have you noticed? Done the heating up, Kathy.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. Now another one. So if you look at, normally they give awards for best scripts, etc. And I think all in all, the word collaboration, a little bit overused. It's a lovely word. People like to band it around, but they don't exercise it often enough. But they've tried. So I think, IATA, TIACA, ASA, ACA, ACI, all of the representative organisations. I think all in all, they've done a good job by getting together a little bit better. And I think now a lesson learned is that they need to be more streamlined, they need to be more effective, and they need to consolidate and collaborate a lot more. And then the industry will be a better place.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think we spoke a few times before last year around the benefits of collaboration. We also, I guess, mentioned and referenced the benefits of debate and dialogue, and not necessarily everybody agrees, but actually trying to understand alternate ways of operating and identifying, sort of best possible ways forward. I still don't think there's enough challenge and enough bricks thrown, Chris. So, while some of this stuff has been helpful, people are always very, very nice and friendly and all very lovely, and being lovely doesn't get things done generally. I find,
No.
being too democratic also doesn't get things done. So I do wish, as you well know, from us working together, we like to speak rather candidly and frankly, and think that we can achieve things not by always being respectful, Chris. And I think each of these organizations have been respectful, but some give too much credit to others that really they don't deserve. So it would be helpful, I think, for us going forward now to actually have some more conviction, getting some more, dare I say, regulation or legislation if required. I'm not a fan of too much red tape, but legislate where necessary to enforce change and ensure you can comply with single universal sets of standards when it comes to vaccination certificates or documentation or outcomes. That I think is really important, rather than government saying, well, we'll sort of speak about it, we'll engage, and we'll talk to the industry. Look, talking to the industry is bollocks. Just get the bloody thing done and get it up and running and make sure it's all the same. Job done. So yes, I hear you what you're saying in terms of the best script award, in terms of the construct. I do think there needs to be a bit more creativity in that, and the creative writers would do well to be brought more to the fore, rather than the diktats that have come from very passive organizations historically.
Yeah, no, I agree. But being a positive disruptor, and also people asking why more at every level, because perhaps, and this has been another good example, if people had have insisted or asked why earlier, not necessarily to do with COVID, but to do with the sustainability of businesses and the business model, and not chasing the bottom line and just looking at growth, just looking to see whether or not what you were doing was making sense. That I think is why is so important. Now, talking about the whys and talking about people getting things done, I've got one now. If there was to be a fiction award, and this one is especially for our old friend David Ambridge. So I'm sure if he's listening now, he knows what's going to be coming. But just recently, there's been a lovely little article about e-airway bill and documentation, and Willie Walsh is there, and he's actually made quite a good statement. Now, with not just tongue in cheek and a little bit of I jest, but I went back and I put, if anyone can, Willie can. And I think if he puts his mind to this now, and there's a bit of momentum behind it, and I've even said we should start getting the T-shirts now with an airway bill and a red cross on it and a little logo underneath, if anyone can, Willie can. So we get behind him, but also put him under a little bit of pressure. This is something that should happen now. And government should turn around, carriers should turn around, airports should turn around, handling agents should turn around and say, from such and such a date, no more bloody paper. It's ridiculous. And for all of the little twists and turns and little like familiarization and favor and all that rubbish that goes on with the damn documents now, and rates and it's ridiculous. Stop it, get it where it should be, so that it's transparent and it's controlled and it can't be manipulated and changed. Stop the damn paperwork. So Willie, we're behind you. T-shirts are being designed as we speak. And along with bring Britain back better for Boris. So whether it's 4Bs or 5Bs, we've now
Boris brings Britain back better.
That's it, mate. And now we've got another line in our clothing, in our future clothing empire, which is if anyone can, Willie can.
I like it, Chris. I applaud. I applaud just now the around airway bills and paper and documentation, and it's all part of a bureaucracy and a system that was set up 60 years ago that hasn't really in many regards moved on beyond the pale of where it once was. And the analogy I always use, it goes, to print those airway bills, often there's an OKI printer.
Oh my God.
Now this morning, actually only yesterday, I was having a conversation with a client ground handler of ours, and we were talking to a potential airline customer for part of a tender the airline had gone out for, and the airline asked us if we, the ground handler, was capable of supporting their airway billing and documentation requirements, and that they would provide us with the stock. So that would be okay, would it?
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous.
Chris, I have to say, look, I mean, there are some challenges we know, with governance and bureaucracy, and let's call it out for what it is, fraudulent activity. Yeah. And that's why all these dockets have existed, and that's why we have all these audits in place. It also allows an army of auditors to be employed by the organization, and a small army of auditors that could invade probably a small country.
Exactly.
But that's sort of, it's all the processes are predicated and designed upon there being one single sort of bad apple in the basket of 99.
Yep.
And therefore, all of those processes and all that red tape and all the paper and the stamps. I mean, somebody asked me the other day, I was in Spain. They asked me, if you got a chop, you got a stamp. I said, stamp. What do you want me to put a stamp on? What are these stamps? So I think what we've got to do actually is convince these businesses and the organizations that, I think the larger part in the Western world, it's probably very, very well adopted, but in some parts still not. But convince them of the benefits, like anything, Chris. Through conversation and dialogue, and actually start to penalise people that don't comply. So if you pitch up with a paper airway bill and you've not submitted an e-airway bill, exactly,
charge them through the roof, and then give them an amnesty period, and then say from such and such a date, not acceptable anymore.
No shipments. They will soon work out how to comply.
Yeah. So Willie, if you need a couple of enforcers, we're available.
Well, I'm more gentle persuasion. I'm gentle persuasion, Chris. You've got your bat underneath your desk there. So.
And a T-shirt will be on its way to Willie next week. I'm going to get one done. I'm going to send it to him. Right. So now on the same theme. So if there was some new releases coming out and new films to keep an eye out for, in my opinion, it would be Going Green. Okay, because that's obviously going to be a big thing, but also the realities of going green have got to be seen by everybody, because everybody wants electric, everybody wants this, that, and the other, but it comes at a cost, it comes at a time, and it comes at a cost of something else. So that's one. And then the other one is biometrics and technology. So a little bit more. I think people have they've bent a little bit, and they've accepted it a lot. And people have got more involved. And I think the advancements over the last year and so is probably equivalent to 10 or 15 years. It's got to keep going. It's got to keep going. It's got to be quick. And there's so much good stuff out there now that people should start doing a pick and mix instead of trying to create their own all the time. Because by the time they've created, it's out of date, or it's too complicated, or super users are doing something else and nobody understands anyhow. So let's start doing things simpler, more cost effectively, and bring more people into it and get used to doing that. The outstanding performer, I think, should be the scientists for the vaccines.
Here. Yeah, absolutely.
Mother of Moses, what a feat of ingenuity and everything. It's incredible what they've done. Absolutely amazing.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep, very good. Now, people might be thinking, why is he talking so quickly? It's because we've both got a session to go to straight away, plus we're firing up the barbecue. The weather is fantastic. We're going to be thinking of everybody whilst we're enjoying the evening, and we will be back to normal next week, where we'll be covering the actual realities of the business, because whilst cargo is up, I don't know, 40% or whatever, passenger is down, the balance is still terrible. So Willie's also now pushing governments to do more because it's not recovering as quickly as people expect. So we've got to do things differently now, and we've got to start helping everyone. So Stephen, I'd like to thank you. It's a shame we don't have the little Oscars or the little awards, but maybe at a conference soon, we might be able to do something. But it's always a pleasure. And I know it's a little bit unusual this week. I've done a little bit more of the talking and a bit more of the speed of speech, but I love you to bits. It's been an absolutely great year or so. Thank you for everything you've done. Our anniversary, now we've given some awards, and please God, everything's going to get better from here on in. And another good thing, Skylight Care. I got some information about people, vacancies available, sent them all out to some lovely people in the industry, and please God, now they've got opportunities to get back. So anybody who's got any ideas to get people back on board and back doing what they need to do and giving a little bit of a smile and a bit of spirit back to someone, brilliant. So everybody should care. Happy days. I feel as if I've just taken something and it's wearing off. So Stephen, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful show. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Chris, just very quickly, I want to say thanks for my award. Oh
yeah. Do you like it? It's good.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. So it's on. I'm sure. Unfortunately, the car didn't come with it, but the aircraft tag for those that are not seeing the video is Chris gifted me with a small 747, a piece of history. Yep. A small piece of 747, which he's going to tell you all about how you can get hold of one yourself next week on next week's show. Yeah. And it's also with if anybody goes on with Albion, which is a company headed up by a young man called Lewis, very, very innovative. And at next week's show, I'm going to introduce everybody to a brand new game that's going to take the world by storm. It is absolutely superb. So I can't wait. Till next week. God bless everybody. Stay safe. Steve, love you. What a beautiful picture over your right shoulder, mate. Oh, that'll be my right over this right or that right? Yeah, the right, your own right. Yeah. My missus put that up last night, so fair play to her. See you in a minute. Thank you. Barbecue. Thanks very much, Steve. All the best. Cheers. Cheers, son.